So what's your name and where you from?
My name is Tony. I'm from San Bernardino, California, Delmon Heights area.
All right. And uh, you was born and raised in California?
Yeah, I was born and raised in California, Musco area.
Okay. And that's how far is that from LA, Los Angeles?
Probably about 60 miles.
Okay. That west, north of Los Angeles?
Yeah, west.
West. Okay. All right. So you seen the backstory on Charleston. Charleston White.
Right.
How he feels about the Asians using the N word. What's your input on the Asians up north, the Asian Crips using the N word?
Well, I think it's nowadays it's their culture. I don't think they used it back then. I think they grew into using it. I think the ones that end up falling by the wayside and getting incarcerated, I think that they picked that habit up in the penitentiary and they brought it to the streets and they started using it, and became worldwide. Now, a lot of people is against it because of where they come from, where their forefathers and grandmothers and everything else, and dealing with slavery. So a lot of people are still kind of a little bit upset about that.
Okay, and you mentioned prison, so now, what do you mean they picked it up from prison?
Well, because back then you had a lot of interactive Mexicans and whites on one side together, and blacks was by themselves, and they start mixing in with the Asians a little bit, and they start picking up on the culture that we use as saying the N-word to one another. So by them hanging around us and exchanging dialogues between one another, they start picking up on that language and they start using it amongst themselves and amongst the people that they talk to, which is hanging around blacks. So therefore, the blacks got comfortable with it and the Asians got comfortable with it, and it just went out of control.
Okay. So now the Asian Crips, as far as gang banging, they're not a racist gang, are they? Because some people are on the internet thinks that Asian gangs hate black gangs.
Well, I'm gonna say that it didn't used to be that way, but as time went on, you had more Asian and black gangs getting into rivalries and stuff, and so therefore it created a lot of hatred. But before time, it wasn't no Asian and blacks always into it.
Okay. So this is actually more of a gang thing, but because they're different race, people are getting the misconception that it's being a racial thing. But in reality, it's just gang violence.
Yeah, it's gang violence. It comes from gang violence. It didn't come from Asians not liking blacks or blacks not liking Asians. It probably somewhat was fueled by, a lot of the Asians coming out to California, United States area, taking over businesses and stuff. So, of course, when you, a black man, go inside their place of business and they feel that they're being watched or scrutinized because they're black, and you got to be watched around the store like you're going to steal something, so that creates tension as well. So it got different starting points of where people start that the creation of hatred comes in. So.
Okay. So now on Charleston, his viewpoint, I believe that's where he's coming from, is that type of angle. Is he feels the Asians did not have the same type of treatment as the blacks, so that's why he feels so strong about them using the N word. And that goes to what you just said, blacks go in the store and they get looked at as if they're about to steal, and while the Asian kids, it may not have been the same for them.
Right, just reverse that picture, and a black-owned business, storefront, so to speak, and you have Asians that come into the store. We're not watching them and what they do or like they finna rob us or anything. They go on and get what they gonna get and get the items, and they pay for what they gonna do, and they out the door. And we're not scrutinizing them. But when you flip it around, that's where the animosity comes in, that because we feel that, man, we're labeled as thieves, robbers, killers, and everything else, and that's by another ethnic group. So therefore, that's where all the tension come in at.
Okay. So I see what you're saying. Now, one last thing about the Asians. So like now, those particular Asian Crips, you seen the video. They're not the those Asians that are the ones being racist towards the black community. So we talking about like the Asians in the stores are different from the Asian Crips, or are they not?
Of course, you can't judge every Asian and say that, you know, and scrutinize them with hatred because one group of individuals chose to come up on up their upraising, and that's the culture that they choose, which is the gangbanging life, and say, okay, well now I'm going to judge every Asian according to that group of people. I don't think that's fair.
Exactly. Okay. All right. This next question is a response to Charleston. He also addressed the stipulation around being street. What is it about in the black community? If you're not hood or gangster, why in the black community do you have to be considered a buster or a clown if you're not hood or gangster?
Well, you have a neighborhood, so to speak. Nowadays, what you got probably 60 to 75% that's gang members or gang ties, and you got that other 30% that's just stay in the front yard and mama don't let them go nowhere, and they into the books. So the bigger majority of the gang members, or let me say the title of gang activity, they're scrutinized because they feel that they put in most of the work around their neighborhood. They protect their neighborhood. So they basically saying the ones that don't do nothing, you getting a free ride. While we out here putting in work. So then they're labeled as, busters, all up under, all above, marks, everything else that comes with that. So, you have a lot of gang members that have the mentality of, if you ain't putting in no work, in the neighborhood, other neighborhoods worldwide, then you're a buster.
Okay, what type of work, like as far as like, so I could be a community activist in the neighborhood, right? He put in work, and he could be called a buster by certain people. Now, I don't believe it's all gang members that are calling these people busters and clowns. I think it's come from the younger ones. So do you think it's stemming from the OGs and they're passing that down? And so if a kid grows up and say, I don't want to join a gang, I want to go to school and read these books, and now I'm a square, I'm a lame, and I'm a buster for reading books.
Well, see, we're talking about 2021, and we're talking about 1985 on up to 2000 on up to 21. So then the culture changes. Changing meaning that back then, yes, you wasn't hard, you didn't be hard, or you didn't show that you was hard to, your fellow neighbors or your fellow neighborhood, people that you run with, then yeah, you was considered a buster. That's what you was. But nowadays, I think as well as the OGs and some of the youngsters that, that's going down the right path, yeah, they see the ones that's into the books. Those are the ones or future. So therefore, they're considered as the smart ones. They're considered as the ones that's putting in work, because they're putting in work in a positive way. And as far as gang activity, gang violence, all that, when people first started gang banging, it wasn't just on each other. It was about something. It was about raising awareness of, because we was getting treated bad. So we came together as a collective to be able to further our mission of saying that don't keep us held down, afford us the same opportunity as the white folks. So, that's where you had a difference at. But nowadays, 2021, OGs, youngsters, everybody want to see everybody grow in a positive way. You still got some that's running around and maybe they haven't been put on the right track, or they don't want to be put on the right track. They still want to follow that negative activity. So, for them, in their eyes, it's not a bad thing. In the eyes of those that's trying to grow, yeah, it's a bad thing. But it's a good thing to them because they're still in it.
So now, one last question. So, a famous pimp, I forgot what he goes by, how I'll get the name, but he said that in the pimp world, there's only pimps, hoes, and then everybody else are squares. Gangsters, he said, they recently been wanting to be added to that list. So when they around, he said they add gangsters. Okay, so now it's pimp, hoes, gangsters, and then everybody else are squares. How do you feel about that?
Well, you can't segregate and say that a pimp, a player, a gangster, whatever. If you was a pimp and you was a player, you was a gangster as well, because you had to be a gangster to be a pimp. Because if somebody come and take your hoe or took your money from your hoe, then you turn to a gangster. So therefore, I think they got that mistaken.
That's valid. That's valid. Okay, and all right, man, that's a good interview, man. I definitely want to have you come back and let everybody know your thoughts. We got more questions for you. We're gonna wrap it up. If you have you got any social media? If you want them to follow, or if you don't,
Always, I'm on Instagram, Kangolistic. Follow me. I'm there. Always good positive feedback from you, as well as kind of updating the community, sort of stake, the viewers of a little bit of knowledge. I don't have it all, but as we all come together, those who are looking for a positive change, then we can all come together and answer each other's questions. So I think, farther going ahead, it's a good thing.
Okay, perfect. All right, man, that's it. Thanks.
Thank you.